When the gunman opened fire in the packed movie theater at 9:43 p.m., 400 people screamed and dove for cover while chaos erupted in the darkness. But the cleaner they'd been treating like furniture moved different, calm, calculated, like he'd made impossible shots under pressure before. What they didn't know was that Sergeant Tony Rodriguez had been the SWAT team's top sniper for 12 years, and their simple janitor was about to end the nightmare with one perfect shot from 75 yards in near-total darkness. Welcome to Stories of Secret Heroes. Before we begin this powerful story of hidden precision and life-saving marksmanship, tell me in the comments from which city are you watching this video today. And if you believe that heroes often work quietly in the shadows until the moment when perfect aim saves lives, hit that subscribe button and help us share stories that matter. Cineplex Metro stood as the largest movie theater complex in downtown Phoenix, its 16 screens showing everything from blockbuster premieres to independent films across 4 floors of entertainment space. The theater employed 45 people during peak hours, serving thousands of customers weekly who came for escape, entertainment, and the shared experience of watching stories unfold in the dark. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez had worked the evening cleaning shift at Cineplex Metro for 2 years, arriving at 6 p.m. when the last shows began and staying until 2 a.m. when the building was secured for the night. At 55, he moved through the complex with systematic efficiency, cleaning theaters between showings, maintaining restrooms, and ensuring that moviegoers could enjoy their entertainment in a spotless environment. Tony wore the standard Cineplex uniform, maroon polo shirt with the theater logo, dark pants and comfortable shoes that could handle 8 hours of walking on concrete floors. He carried his cleaning supplies in a rolling cart, worked methodically through his assigned areas, and maintained the kind of professional invisibility that allowed customers to focus on their movies rather than the people who made their experience possible. What the Cineplex Metro customers didn't know was that Sergeant Tony Rodriguez had spent 12 years as the top sniper with the Phoenix Police Department's SWAT team, making precision shots that had ended hostage situations, neutralized active shooters, and saved lives in circumstances where a single bullet had to be perfect or people would die. Tony had retired from law enforcement in 2021 after a distinguished career that included 47 successful tactical operations, multiple commendations for marksmanship, and training certifications that qualified him to teach precision shooting to other law enforcement agencies. He'd taken the theater job because it provided steady employment with health insurance while he adjusted to civilian life after decades of high-stress police work. His SWAT training remained sharp despite his civilian employment. Tony automatically assessed every environment for tactical advantages, identified potential threats before they developed, and maintained the kind of situational awareness that had once kept him alive during armed confrontations with dangerous criminals. The skills that had made him legendary among Phoenix law enforcement now helped him notice when customers were intoxicated and potentially disruptive, when teenagers were sneaking into R-rated films, and when anyone in the theater complex was behaving in ways that suggested they might cause problems for other guests. The mockery at Cineplex Metro was casual rather than malicious, reflecting the social dynamics that existed between customers who were there for entertainment and workers who were there to facilitate that entertainment. To most moviegoers, Tony was part of the building's infrastructure, necessary for cleanliness, but not worthy of acknowledgement as a person with complex experience or specialized knowledge. The worst offenders were groups of college students and young professionals who treated movie theaters as social spaces where they could demonstrate their perceived superiority over service workers. They'd make comments about people who peak at cleaning movie theaters and jokes about jobs that don't require any real skills. "Look at that guy," a 22-year-old finance student named Jake would say to his friends while Tony cleaned around their feet during late-night showings. 55 years old and still mopping floors. That's what happens when you don't invest in education and career development. His girlfriend Ashley would laugh while filming TikTok content. "Right, like anyone could do that job. It's literally just pushing a mop around and emptying trash. No wonder he's invisible. There's nothing interesting about him." The social media content was inevitable. Young customers began featuring Tony in their day-in-the-life posts about successful weekend entertainment, with captions about appreciating how far we've come and grateful we don't have to do jobs like that. Instagram stories showed Tony working in the background with comments about different life choices and staying motivated to achieve more. Tony heard every word. His law enforcement background had taught him to observe human behavior without taking it personally, and that people often revealed their character through how they treated those they perceived as powerless. The comments said more about the speaker's insecurities than about Tony's worth, but the daily accumulation of casual dismissal wore on him in ways that armed confrontations with criminals had not. The theater management saw Tony as a reliable employee who did his job efficiently and without complaint. They didn't know about his law enforcement background, didn't ask about his previous career, and didn't recognize that his exceptional attention to detail and threat awareness came from years of training that had prepared him for situations far more dangerous than movie theater maintenance. Detective Maria Santos had been attending movies at Cineplex Metro for 6 months when she began noticing something unusual about one of the theater's cleaning staff. As an active member of the Phoenix Police Department's tactical unit, Maria had worked with SWAT snipers and recognized certain behavioral patterns that indicated specialized training. Tony moved through the theater complex with the systematic awareness she associated with law enforcement professionals. He automatically positioned himself where he could observe all entrances and exits, monitored customer behavior for signs of potential problems, and carried himself with the controlled alertness that came from years of tactical operations. Most tellingly, Tony's responses to unusual situations, aggressive customers, equipment malfunctions, emergency protocols, showed the calm competence of someone who'd managed much more serious crises under much higher stakes. His communication was precise and professional, his problem-solving was systematic, and his physical conditioning was obviously maintained, despite his civilian job. One evening, while Tony was cleaning the area around the concession stand, Maria noticed how he'd positioned himself to maintain clear sightlines to multiple theater entrances while efficiently completing his maintenance tasks. It was a subtle detail, but it suggested training in tactical positioning that went far beyond janitorial requirements. "You handle crowd management like someone with law enforcement experience," Maria commented when Tony approached to empty nearby trash receptacles. Tony looked at her carefully before responding. "Just trying to keep everyone safe and comfortable, ma'am. You prior police?" Tony paused, recognizing something in Maria's question that suggested professional rather than casual interest. "Phoenix PD, retired, 12 years SWAT." Maria's expression showed immediate recognition and respect. "SWAT sniper?" "Yes, ma'am. Tony Rodriguez. Detective Maria Santos, tactical unit. I've heard about your work. You're a legend in the department." That night, Maria spent 3 hours reviewing Tony's service record and tactical operation reports, trying to understand how one of the most skilled marksmen in Arizona had ended up cleaning movie theaters while customers mocked him for having a simple job. Thursday night, October 18th, started as a typical evening at Cineplex Metro. The 9:30 p.m. showings were popular with young adults and college students, creating a busy but manageable crowd across the theater's 16 screens. Tony was cleaning Theater 7 between showings when he noticed an individual whose behavior triggered his threat assessment training. The man was approximately 25 years old, wearing a long coat despite the warm weather, and moving through the lobby with the kind of agitated focus that Tony recognized from years of observing dangerous suspects. Most concerning was the individual's attention to crowd patterns, exit routes, and security camera positions, behavioral indicators that suggested he was planning violence rather than enjoying entertainment. Tony began discreet surveillance, using his cleaning duties as cover while tracking the suspicious individual through the theater complex. His SWAT training allowed him to observe without being detected, gathering intelligence about potential threats while maintaining his civilian role. The man purchased a ticket for the 9:43 p.m. showing of a popular action movie in Theater 12, the largest auditorium in the complex, currently sold out with 400 customers. Tony's threat assessment escalated to critical when he observed the individual making final preparations that indicated an imminent attack, checking concealed weapons, timing security patrol patterns, and positioning himself for maximum tactical advantage. Tony discreetly contacted building security using his cleaning staff radio, but he knew that theater security personnel weren't trained to handle armed threats, and that police response time would be at least 6 minutes too long if this individual was planning immediate violence. When the man entered Theater 12 and Tony saw him reaching inside his coat, 12 years of SWAT training took over completely. At 9:43 p.m., exactly when the movie's opening credits began and the theater was at maximum darkness, the gunman opened fire into the packed auditorium. The first shots created instant panic, 400 people screaming, diving for cover, scrambling over seats in desperate attempts to escape the horror that had invaded their entertainment. Tony was in the projection booth area when the shooting began, having positioned himself there based on his tactical assessment of the threat. From his elevated position, he could see the gunman positioned in the theater's center aisle, methodically firing into the crowd of moviegoers who had nowhere to hide in the enclosed space. Tony's SWAT training engaged automatically. He assessed the tactical situation with the cold precision that had made him legendary among Phoenix law enforcement. One shooter, center position, 400 civilians in immediate danger, police response still minutes away, and a clear shot opportunity from his current position. The theater's emergency lighting provided just enough illumination for Tony to identify his target, while maintaining the concealment advantage of his elevated position. The distance was approximately 75 yards, a challenging shot under ideal conditions, nearly impossible in the darkness and chaos of an active shooting situation. But Tony had made similar shots during hostage rescues, barricaded suspect operations, and tactical situations where civilian lives depended on perfect marksmanship under impossible conditions. His muscle memory and training took over, calculating wind resistance, target movement, and bullet trajectory with the automatic precision that had been drilled into him through thousands of hours of practice. Tony drew the concealed service weapon he'd been authorized to carry as a retired law enforcement officer, acquired his target through the scope, controlled his breathing, and fired a single shot that traveled 75 yards through near-total darkness to strike the gunman's center mass, ending the attack immediately. The precision shot that ended the Cineplex Metro attack took exactly 3.7 seconds from the moment Tony acquired his target to the moment the gunman was neutralized. In that brief window, his SWAT training had saved 400 lives through marksmanship that represented the pinnacle of law enforcement tactical skills. When police arrived 4 minutes later, they found a controlled scene where the threat had been eliminated by someone whose expertise exceeded their own. The gunman was down, the civilians were safe, and the crisis had been managed by textbook precision shooting under extreme conditions. "Sir," the SWAT commander asked Tony, "what's your background in tactical operations?" "Phoenix PD SWAT, retired, 12 years, 47 successful operations." The SWAT commander examined the shot placement and environmental conditions with professional admiration. "That was an impossible shot under these conditions. You saved everyone in that theater." The revelation that their cleaner was a former SWAT sniper spread through the theater's customer base within hours, but the story that emerged was more complex than typical hero narratives. This wasn't just about a hidden expert saving the day, it was about institutional blindness that had prevented people from recognizing the extraordinary qualifications of someone they'd been treating as invisible infrastructure. Jake, the finance student who'd made comments about Tony's failed career for months, struggled to reconcile his mockery with the recognition that the man he'd dismissed as intellectually inferior had just performed one of the most difficult shots in law enforcement history to save his life. "We had no idea," Ashley told the news reporter who interviewed survivors. "For 2 years we treated him like he was just part of the background. We made jokes about his job, filmed content that made fun of him, never bothered to learn anything about who he was, and he saved all our lives." The media attention following the theater shooting led to broader interest in Tony's SWAT career and the transition challenges faced by retired law enforcement in civilian employment. Police organizations shared his story as an example of how tactical skills often remained hidden and undervalued in post-service careers. Tony's SWAT record revealed a distinguished career that included precision shooting in the most challenging conditions, training that represented the elite of law enforcement marksmanship, and successful operations that had saved dozens of lives through perfect accuracy under extreme pressure. He'd been the department's go-to sniper for situations where a single shot had to end threats without endangering civilians. "Sergeant Rodriguez represents the best of law enforcement tactical specialists," explained Captain James Mitchell, Tony's former SWAT commander, during a news interview. "These are officers who undergo training that prepares them for split-second decisions, where perfect accuracy means the difference between saving lives and losing them. Sergeant Rodriguez was our most accomplished marksman." The contrast between Tony's law enforcement achievements and his civilian theater job sparked conversations about veteran employment, societal assumptions about success, and the hidden expertise that existed in service industries. His story became part of broader discussions about recognizing value in all forms of work, and understanding that career transitions often involved highly skilled people taking jobs that didn't reflect their full capabilities. But Tony himself remained focused on the practical aspects of his situation. The theater job had provided the steady schedule and low-stress environment he needed, while adjusting to civilian life after decades of high-pressure tactical operations. The precision shot had been a natural application of his training, not a dramatic career change or personal transformation. In the weeks following the shooting, Tony's relationship with the Cineplex Metro community changed dramatically. The casual dismissal and condescending mockery were replaced by genuine respect and recognition, but more importantly, by curiosity about his experiences and gratitude for his continued presence at the theater. Jake and Ashley struggled with the recognition that they'd spent 2 years displaying exactly the kind of ignorant arrogance that prevented them from understanding the people around them. The man they'd dismissed as a failed service worker had skills that had literally saved their lives using expertise they couldn't comprehend. "Tony," Jake approached him the week after the shooting, "I owe you an apology. The way we treated you, the things we said, we were completely wrong." Tony continued his cleaning duties while he listened, maintaining the professional courtesy that had defined his service in both law enforcement and civilian roles. "You weren't wrong about my current job, Jake. I am a theater cleaner. But you're also a SWAT sniper. You saved our lives. You're a hero." Tony looked at the young finance student who'd spent months making him feel invisible. "Heroes are just people who do what needs to be done when it needs doing. The job title doesn't change that." "Why didn't you ever tell us about your background?" "Because it wasn't relevant to cleaning theaters. But when someone threatened the safety of moviegoers, it became relevant." Jake nodded slowly, understanding that Tony's humility about his extraordinary background only made his heroism more impressive. The months following the theater shooting saw significant changes in how Cineplex Metro operated and how its customers interacted with all staff members. The management team implemented new security protocols that utilized Tony's tactical expertise while formally recognizing his role in customer safety coordination. Tony became the theater's security consultant, applying his threat assessment skills to identify potential vulnerabilities before they became dangerous. His systematic approach to crowd management, developed during SWAT operations, improved safety protocols across the entire complex. Jake and Ashley developed a genuine friendship with Tony, learning about his law enforcement experiences while gaining respect for the skills required in both tactical operations and civilian service work. They began volunteering with organizations that supported retired law enforcement officers and advocated for recognizing hidden expertise in service industries. "I've learned more about real courage from Tony in 3 months than I did in 4 years of college," Jake told his finance study group. The transformation extended beyond individual relationships. Other customers who'd witnessed Tony's heroism began engaging with all theater staff as people rather than invisible service providers, understanding that everyone around them might have experiences and capabilities they'd never considered. Tony never returned to active law enforcement, but he found ways to apply his SWAT expertise to civilian safety challenges. He began consulting on security assessments for entertainment venues and volunteering with organizations that provided tactical training for civilian security personnel. 2 years after the shooting, Cineplex Metro had become a model for entertainment venue security and respectful treatment of all employees. The protocols developed by Tony had been adopted by other theater chains, creating industry-wide improvements in threat assessment and customer protection. Tony continued working as the theater's evening cleaner, but his role had evolved to include formal responsibilities for security evaluation and staff training. He'd found a way to use his law enforcement background constructively while maintaining the routine that helped him manage the psychological transition from high-stress police work to civilian life. The customers who frequented Cineplex Metro learned to see Tony not just as the former SWAT sniper who'd saved their lives, but as someone whose choice to continue serving others, whether protecting civilians as a police officer or ensuring their entertainment experience as a theater cleaner, represented the same dedication to public service that made him exceptional in any context. Jake completed his finance degree with a changed understanding of what success actually meant, often citing Tony's example when classmates made dismissive comments about service workers. Ashley used her social media platform to advocate for respectful treatment of all workers and to highlight the hidden expertise that existed in unexpected places. But perhaps the most important change was cultural. The moviegoers who'd learned to respect Tony carried that lesson into their interactions with service workers throughout their lives, understanding that everyone they encountered might have experiences and capabilities that would surprise them. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez still works at Cineplex Metro, still cleans theaters with the systematic precision that ensures moviegoers can enjoy their entertainment in a spotless environment, still maintains the kind of vigilant presence that keeps everyone safe. The shot that saved 400 lives lasted less than 4 seconds, but its impact on the theater community has been permanent. The gunman who entered Theater 12 that October night had planned to create one of the deadliest mass shootings in Arizona history. Instead, he encountered someone whose training in precision marksmanship made his violence impossible and his capture inevitable. The skills that had once protected Phoenix civilians from dangerous criminals had seamlessly transferred to protecting movie customers from a different kind of threat. Tony's SWAT motto, precision, honor, service, had guided him through 12 years of law enforcement and continued to guide him through civilian life. Whether eliminating threats as a police sniper or maintaining safety as a theater cleaner, the principle remained the same. When people were in danger, you acted with professional competence and personal courage, regardless of recognition or social status. The mockery that once filled Tony's workdays has been replaced by genuine respect and gratitude, but not because people learned about his law enforcement service. The respect comes from recognition that his willingness to risk his life for strangers, whether as a SWAT officer or as a theater employee, represented the same dedication to protecting others that made him exceptional in any context. The customers who dismissed him as just a cleaner learned that their safety had been ensured for 2 years by someone whose expertise in tactical operations exceeded anything they'd encounter in their professional or social lives. They learned that precision often worked quietly, that expertise often served humbly, and that the people protecting them might be the same people they saw every day without really seeing at all. Late at night, when Tony finishes his cleaning rounds and secures the theater for closing, he sometimes thinks about the suspects he'd stopped as a SWAT sniper and the customers he continues to protect as a civilian employee. The stakes are different, the environment is different, but the mission is the same, ensuring that good people can enjoy their lives safely, whether they're witnesses in hostage situations or families watching movies together. The most important shots aren't always the ones that make headlines. Sometimes they happen in movie theaters when someone with the right training happens to be in the right place with the willingness to take perfect aim when everything depends on it. So I ask you, have you ever met someone like Sergeant Tony Rodriguez?
Someone whose current job didn't reflect their extraordinary tactical skills, whose precision became apparent only when lives depended on perfect accuracy, who chose humble work while carrying the responsibility of protecting others. Share their story in the comments. Tell us about the service member, the quiet professional, the person everyone overlooked, who turned out to have skills that could save lives through perfect precision under impossible conditions. Because here at Stories of Secret Heroes, we know that the most important protection often works invisibly, without recognition, until the moment when everything depends on someone knowing exactly how to aim true. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it with others. Help us honor the hidden guardians who bring extraordinary precision to ordinary jobs, and remind the world that the people ensuring our safety often do so without fanfare or recognition. We'll see you in the next story, and until then, remember to treat everyone with respect, because you never know when the person cleaning your movie theater might be someone who once made impossible shots to save lives. But more importantly, they're someone doing honest work that deserves your recognition, regardless of where they've aimed or what they've hit. Real precision doesn't announce itself. It works quietly, professionally, and with the understanding that keeping people safe sometimes requires perfect accuracy when there's no room for error. Precision, honor, service, always.